Hi, today we're going to be talking about breath control and breath support. Now, you may be wondering, why am I holding a child's toy? These are really cool actually to help you get to the musculature feeling of using your breath support properly. So I just got introduced to these by Adri Means Weekly at the Shenandoah University CCM Institute over the summer, and they're deceptively easy. You can see it's like a little blowpipe that has a little basketball on the end, and it seems like it's going to be something, you know, with a master's degree, I should be able to do this appropriately, but it's something I'm still working on because it's actually very difficult, and it really helps you see where is your core attaching to that breath and how are you using your entire body to support that breath. So let me just show you. I'm going to try to keep that little ball at a constant height without having it explode, and just try to keep my breath exhalation controlled. And you can see it takes all of my concentration just to kind of get it to hover just right above the little basket. I'm obsessed with these. I found these on Amazon for, I think by the time I ordered a box of them for my students, they were like $1-ish. So really easy little tool to use to just help you get in touch with what all of the musculature is that's happening to help support your singing. So we should have head on top of shoulders, on top of hips, on top of knees, and everything nice and loose with an easy column of air. I always say to put the index fingers right here under the front ribs. The webbing of the hand is touching the side muscles, and my thumbs are under my back ribs, and I want to make sure that I'm really engaged in all of those muscles because it's the entire core. A lot of people talk about just the diaphragm being the breath support, and that is just not correct. We want to have firmness all the way around all of these muscles of the core. So we want to have that filling that's going to push your hands apart in that expansion. So I really like to have my hands here, and sometimes I'll even do it like as I'm singing. I'll find a way to have that feeling so that I know that I'm engaged with all of that. It is one of the reasons that singing opera is not difficult in a corset, because it gives you something to push against all the way around. So we want to have that feeling of a corset. It shouldn't be squishing you in, but it should be something that you can push against. So go ahead and put your hands right there. Make sure again that your posture is nice and stacked, and you're gonna fill up. And push those index fingers apart and then release. We're gonna do a 4-part breath cycle, starting with the release. Exhale first, fill up, hold it firm, and then let it out on a hiss. That firmness should feel like the expansion that happens when you have a tire that's been filled. Not like a balloon where it's still squishy, but that firmness and expansion that happens when you have filled something with positive pressure, right? So if we exhale and fill up and have everything firmed, it's kind of like you're setting yourself as if you're gonna use your muscles in a good way to lift something heavy, right? I would often demonstrate that I can drum on my belly without really any difference in the way that my sound happens. And I used to always have my students come up and like give me a punch, because it's nice and firm, and it should be the kind of expansion that, if you've ever been in a fight, that you're getting yourself ready with this like food baby tummy to take a punch. So it should be nice and strong and have no problems there. But we don't want to be on the hips. We don't necessarily want to be on the waist. We want to be under the ribs, because we want to feel that these ribs are filling up and lifting slightly, and that they're staying lifted. That's what these muscles are doing. They're lifting those ribs to make room for the extra air that your lungs need. So your lungs are expanding downward inside with every breath that you take. And we have to physically make space for them. And all of these muscles expanding and feeling that firmness is going to create a strong, let's call it a cavern. It's a cavity that's going to be all around your body, and it's going to keep that space for your lungs to fill up and to support them as they go. So we want to exhale one more time. Fill up. Hold it firm, and out on that hiss. And then go ahead and release. The release is really important. If you've ever felt fatigued at the end of your song, if you're singing something like Astonishing from Little Women, if you're singing something like You'll Be Back from Hamilton, if you're singing anything that Tori Kelly sings, you start to get tired. Almost always it's because you have forgotten to release. You need to release at the end of every single phrase. And so we're going to try to get that 4-part breath cycle working today so that it becomes a little more automatic. So let's exhale. Fill up. Hold it firm. And one long hiss. Exhale. Fill up. Hold it firm. Let's control that hiss. Fill up. Hold it firm. Again, controlled hiss. Try holding your hands in a different way this time. So now put your thumbs in the front, index fingers in the back, and see if you can feel that expansion in a different way. So let's try exhaling. Fill up. Hold it firm. Hiss. So we want to be feeling that expansion on the sides. You can physically see my hands moving, right? In the front. And it's smaller, but more noticeable if you go ahead and put your hands on your back. You can see my hands and my fingers pulling apart. So we want to feel that expansion in all 3 places. Your ribs are staying lifted. Let's add a pitch. Exhale. Fill up. Exhale. Release the body. The more that we hold that, the more that this is going to push out, and try using the muscles to stay expanded. For men, exhale. Fill up. Hold it firm. E. Exhale. Now let's go faster. Yes, so we want to get into that habit of that cycle happening every single time that we are going to release. What happens is if you keep it expanded for the entirety of a song, which can be 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes 6 or 7 minutes, depending on what the song is, if you stay expanded for that entire time without relaxing, you're essentially doing Pilates. You're doing a plank for all that time. And of course, these muscles are going to start to tire. They're going to start to fatigue. And what happens is you take the tension on your throat, and so the singing doesn't work. You might have songs that you can pop out that high belt when you're just doing it by itself, but then in the course of doing the whole 4-minute long song, you can't quite make it there, and you get to the end and those notes are too high. It's because your breath control and your breath support is not working in tandem with your body. All right, so let's now check our breath control so that everything isn't just falling out of our mouths. right there on that same, well, actually, let's just do our bubbles first. Get that bubbles going. Put your hand on the front of your abdomen. And see if you can get it going. If it's difficult, try short burst. This is an important tool for you because if you are getting that nice solid bubble to come out, that means you're not over breathing. So if I take too much air, I can't sustain it. If I take too little, there's nothing to bubble. And if I'm not supporting, it'll just go and it'll keep kind of petering out as we go. So if you can't get that going, that's okay. Go ahead and use a hum for these exercises. But if you can, it's a great way to check, am I breathing enough or too much? Am I keeping it inside my mouth so that it's controlled and it's not just falling out? And is this all connected to my body and my breath? So we're gonna just try this one long pitch on that lip trill. Exhale, inhale, expand, firm it up. That's it. But you continue checking your posture every once in a while. You can keep your hands there for the entire rehearsal. Just making sure that those ribs are remaining elevated and the musculature is remaining expanded. So exhale. And we're starting to use the full body of singing. That's taking a little bit more than these tiny muscles. We're involving the whole body so that we don't feel fatigue on these notes. Let's try some more extended pitches because we're going to go up into your full high range today. Not to bring those shoulders up and down, not to be breathing from your chest. We're not going to have those heaving breath because all that does is put tightness and tension into the shoulders. We're going to try to relax everything and still make sure that it's coming from the muscles. We don't have muscles here, right? There's nothing to support that frame. And anyway, your lungs are inside your rib cage. That's what they're there to protect along with your heart. And we want to make sure that they can expand downward and that they have that protection around them. So keep those shoulders nice and still. And let's move into doing our arpeggios. Make sure you're breathing from the tummy. Exhale. Bottom one. Rumble those bottom pitches. do things on those lip trills is to figure out what your body needs in terms of support for the bottom nose, and we're going to take it all the way up to the high. You may find that you can go farther on both ends of your range when you're doing a lip trill, because it takes off some of the tension and pressure from your vocal folds. And because our mouth is semi-occluded, which is what I talk about when we use the straw, it's taking that pressure because there's not as much air pressure going across your folds. That happens when you use a straw. That happens when you do those lip trills. So we want to always start our warm-ups with a lip trill, because it's just a good way to get those folds moving, get them vibrating against each other nice and gently without any kind of tension. But it also is going to keep everything out of your jaw. It's going to keep everything out of your throat. Now let's take it up higher. Exhale. Range. That's a tremendous range without any kind of tension, and hopefully you're not feeling any kind of fatigue or pressure. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of that lip trill, and we're going to bring it into that ooh and ee, and see what happens with our breath control and breath support as we change into different vowels. Almost always, it's you're taking in too much air. That's the point of lip trills, as I've said already. It's to help you figure out how to control your breath so that you're not taking these big breaths. You can't sustain that. That air has to come out somewhere. We only need a very small, efficient amount of air to be able to make our vocal folds resonate against each other. So we're going to take a small breath. Try this. Exhale first, and then just inhale. You'll feel that there's a natural vacuum, and it gives you exactly enough to make it through the phrase. So try again. Blow out your air, and then just open your mouth. There's a small cavity that's created inside your mouth. A little bit of air rushes in, and your belly should automatically inflate to make room for those lungs. We know what to do naturally. You know, if you've ever screamed on a roller coaster, you don't sit there going, okay, hold on, I have to prep my belt. Ah! Your body knows to fill up. If you've ever held a baby that's crying, you know they don't ever get tired. They don't ever get tired. It takes a long time for a crying baby to lose their voice, because if you've ever held them, you know their little tummies inflate, and they're naturally doing that. So that's what we're trying to get at. We want to have that naturally inflated and firm, but not tight, firm pressure all the way around. Small breath. Let's start again with that exhale. Inhale. Hold it firm. nice and small. We don't need a lot. We just did everything with our lips closed. We don't need this big convergent mouth shape. We need just a small aperture, small opening. Audible? Too much breath. Silent breath. Exhale. Now let's level that up. Push out and slide from bottom to the top. We're going to slow it down so that you can slide up and slide down, and make sure that this is engaged and energized all the way through your entire phrase. So keeping that 4-part breath cycle. Exhale. Inhale. Push out to the end of the phrase. That when you're doing that slide, your belly is naturally engaged. We want to make sure that we stay engaged, firm, energized all the way to the end of the phrase, every single phrase, because it's going to keep that pressure down here on these big muscles that aren't going to hurt, and keep it out of those folds. It's also going to naturally balance your onset. So we have 3 different kinds of onset. One is aspirated for a breathy sound. Billie Eilish, jazz torch singers, hey, right? Very light and breathy. One is glottal, That's kind of what Christina Aguilera and anybody that does riffs, hey, yeah, put a lot of pressure on the folds. We want a balanced onset because it's the most efficient way to control your breath. So we think about things like lifting the soft palate with the feeling of biting into an apple. Hey, so it's not hey, it's not a, it's hey, slightly lifted. You can think about biting into an apple, smelling a rose. We just want the back of the top of the mouth to lift up. That's that soft palate. We can't really control it. You can have the feeling of the beginning of a yawn. And that's just going to make sure that you're balanced between how much air and how much pressure. And it's the most efficient sound. So let's try one more time with that E. I want you to lift it and balance your onset. Slide it and keep that energized all the way through your core. Okay, and I'm seeing some comments about using the different vowels, the oohs and the e's. If you feel that one is better than the other, or as Alberto is saying, the jaw is getting some tension, just take a second. Let that tongue come out. Do your bubbles again. Relax those cheeks. Try bubbles with the tongue out. And it's just going to release that jaw tension. Some vowels are better for some people. That's why we go through a bunch of different ones. Typically, oohs and e's are the best to start with because they have the least amount of glottal pressure from the vocal folds. All right. Let's take it up one more. Start with that lift. So as we lift up, you should not feel any pressure on your throat. All you should feel is that this is doing the work. And all of that tension comes down into the belly. All right, let's go back to our arpeggios. We're gonna do the lip trill all the way up to C3, or sorry, C6, and then we're gonna try it on an oop. And let's see if we can do it with some vowels. Remember, quiet breath. Small breath. Push out to the end of the phrase. Now release. To a C6 on your vowel. Excellent. So then at the end of your workout, when you're finished, then we're gonna go back and we're gonna do those lip trills again to cool down. It's essential, guys. We don't ever go into the gym and just immediately start like pumping iron at 300 pounds. Like, you're gonna warm up, you have to cool down. You have to cool down. These are still muscles. They are small pieces of tissue and ligaments that need time to cool down. So you're just gonna go back to those down into your low range. Hands on the front of the abdomen. Don't forget to release. Working on that 4-part breath cycle is the best thing you can do for your singing, particularly the release, the small breath, the silent breath, and remembering to keep everything firm, expanded, and engaged.